Hi, my name is Zachary Will. I'm here with Riverside Studios. I've always been a gimbal skeptic, but recently I purchased this gimbal, the Zhiyun Crane V2, and just wanted to kind of review it and just give you my opinion on gimbals in general. I always used to think that they were more of like a specialty item for specialty shots, but getting one actually changed my mind about that. Got a job where they wanted me to have a gimbal, and it would be like a make or break item for the job. And so yeah, I made the jump to get a gimbal. So the awesome thing about the Zhiyun Crane V2 is that it is $250, and that single job paid off the gimbal because this gimbal's only 250 bucks. When gimbals first came out, they were like $3,000 or so, and then they slowly came down to about $1,000, and now we're at 250 bucks, and so that's crazy. And so this is about the price of like a good slider or something, which is crazy because this has lots of moving parts and lots of electronics within it, and you can get quite cool shots from this. And I always used to think of gimbals as tracking shots when you're like walking with somebody, following them in like a walk and talk type situation, which is good for, but there's quite a lot of other shots you can get that I didn't realize that would be as easy. And if I just hold it steady, I can get a pretty steady shot with the lens at 105 millimeters, which is pretty amazing because, holding the camera myself, I can't really do that. So I recently took this out on like a conference floor, and a gimbal's perfectly suited for shooting at a conference. And the reason that is just because like I can turn this off and I can just kind of carry this around like this, and it's super lightweight. And then when something cool happens, I can toss it up and then get some cool shots moving around people as they're moving around. Not really, sticking down sticks to like take up floor space and then people have to like walk around me, but instead, being able to move around freely and avoid other people too. And also conference floors, if you just kind of get a lot of tripod shots, they tend to be a lot of the same thing, so it gets boring shooting them pretty quickly. But with a gimbal, you can kind of get some wide sweeping shots of handshakes and people, talking and showing off their products and whatnot. So it's really cool to use on conferences, for sure. One thing for sure, though, with a gimbal is, especially with a one-handed gimbal, your right arm is just going to get super tired after a little bit. It's amazing how just in like maybe 1 or 2 hours, you'll get pretty tired of carrying around a gimbal. And so just kind of keep that in mind, especially if you're getting a one-handed gimbal, that it's not something you're going to want to do for like 5 hours or something. So, shake it up, bring around a tripod camera. In fact, I think this is a perfect companion for my FS5 in that like when I do corporate shoots, I can put the FS5 on a big heavy tripod for like the talking heads, set up all the talking head gear, the tripod, the mic, the lights and stuff, and then I can keep that stuff where it is, and then, pull out my gimbal, my A6300 on it, and then go shoot the B-roll with them. And I can keep all of the talking head stuff set up, and I don't have to worry about tearing that down before I go take shots of, of the B-roll, which is really awesome to have. I think a lot of people tend to think like, oh, I don't have IBIS, so, this camera is not that great because it doesn't have IBIS. And there's a lot of cameras recently that have come out like that, like the EOS R, the EOS RP, lots of different cameras like that, like the Fuji X-T3 and people have been like, oh no, these cameras don't have IBIS, they're no good. That's how a lot of people have been treating cameras recently. And you know, a gimbal's only 250 bucks. And so it's not like IBIS is gonna really destroy a camera, especially when they're this small, that you can just buy a cheap kind of small gimbal and then just kind of go around shooting with just this little extra attachment. Like, that's not too big of a deal for me. So now you might be like, so Zach, you're just gonna use a gimbal for every single shot that you need? And there's definitely some things that you can't use a gimbal for. For sure, like, you can't use a gimbal for detail shots. Like, I can't get ring shots during a wedding with a gimbal. I can't get really close shots of cakes or really close shots of, I don't know, you know, whatever. And so there definitely needs to be a time when you switch back over to tripod, get some tripod shots, for sure. One problem with gimbals is just kind of the up and down movement. Of course, you can kind of glide with your feet movement, and that helps kind of stabilize that out a little bit. But if you're gonna be doing 24 frames per second with a gimbal like this that doesn't have an up and down motion, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to get that smoothed out. Of course, if you're doing 60 frames per second, you can kind of smooth that out too. And so 24 frames per second, you kind of might need a little bit of warp stabilizer on a gimbal shot. But that's okay. I use warp stabilizer actually on a lot of my shots on my weddings and different videos, just for a little bit touch more smoothness. And it definitely goes a long way when you combine it with a gimbal. One problem that I think I noticed is just kind of the joystick on this. It's kind of hard to anticipate how your joystick movements are actually gonna work in real life. I don't know if this is just me, but like I find that the panning by using the follow is actually easier to use than using the joystick left and right. I don't know if I just have my settings set wrong or something, but I find it very difficult to get the joystick movement to give me a nice smooth shot. I think that's just kind of something that I need to figure out, and with the settings and different things like that. But that does come as like a new thing that you need to learn and how to use when you get a gimbal. Well, I guess it's like, do I really need a slider anymore when I have a gimbal? I think that there's some times, you know, like if I want to get like a ring shot and kind of like go around a ring or go around some small detail shot, I think definitely like a slider's better used for that. And also just kind of like, if I want to make sure that the lateral movement is the same. But this also has like a lot of cool abilities, because now I can make that slider shot as long as I want it to be. I'm not restricted to the rails. And I can also go up and down and whatever you want. It's important to note that you shouldn't use a gimbal just as for everything. But it's definitely a handy tool to use. Definitely my criticism of a gimbal being just a specialty item, like a drone or something like that, has definitely changed. I think that gimbals are a great part of any videographer's workflow. I think it's important to know when you should use it, how you should use it, and not to get over carried away with it. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick video about gimbals and the Zhiyun Crane V2 and just kind of like how I use it within my workflow.